Nothing like a rainy Sunday hanging out at the Menards. 189 retaining wall blocks and a bunch of sand and base material. Where could these be going? Good morning. Welcome back. We're not in the woodyard today. We're in fact in front of the house. We're going to do something a little different. I've got a project I need to start that I've been ignoring for probably 4 years now. I need to redo the small retaining wall in front of the garden in our house. It's getting uneven and starting to fall. Let me show you what's going on. So there's this short 2-block retaining wall in front of our garden in the front of the house. Please ignore the overgrowth of weeds. That's all going to get dealt with after this project. As you can see, some of it's fine. Other parts, blocks are falling, and if the camera will capture it, everything's sort of tilted out at an angle. The goal is to take these blocks out, or the ones that are tilting out, redo the base, and add one layer of block all the way up. So this should give you an idea of what we're trying to accomplish. It's not perfect, it's not fancy, it's just better than it was, and it's 1 block taller. Not going too crazy. The base on this section was fine, and we're just going to stack another block. That's why I started over here. It's the easy stuff. The next section down here, you can see there is some grade change, and the blocks are now kind of messed up. So I'm actually going to start digging down and resetting the base blocks before we start stacking anything else. Just as an FYI, this is not going to be the best way to build a wall. It's just the way to build a wall that's, you know, better than it was. Here we go. The camera may not show it too well, but we've now got a trench dug where the blocks used to be. You can notice the change in color. We've got a lot of very heavy clay soil here on our property, so as soon as we get down under maybe an inch or so of topsoil, we're into that clay. Now I'm going to fill this trench with some base material, get it leveled, and stack some blocks on. Let's see how it goes. As I was doing a little bit of excavating off camera, I found out something. Some of my blocks, they're not blocking anymore. In fact, they're doing a pretty miserable job of being blocks. They've all started to rot out, especially right here where our downspout comes out. That's been pushed out. I dug a shallow trench there. The goal is to have that opening come out on top of the lower block, but below the upper block. We're gonna sandwich it right in the middle, sort of make it disappear. Let me get this section dug out, leveled, and I'll show you what I mean. It may not be the most elegant thing in the world, but that's my solution for the downspout drain. Fits pretty nicely there. I will backfill around it just a little bit to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, but that's where that's going to live for the moment. Also, I'm kind of surprised at the amount of material I'm getting from digging out along the bottom here. I'm glad I brought the tractor with the bucket over, because that bucket's getting kind of full. I'm going to get that stuff into that bucket and get it down to the wood yard, where I'm going to use it for some fill. I got the next row of the next section of bottom blocks flipped out, got the dirt pushed back, and I think this is a good illustration of why I'm having to do this. If the camera can pick up the angle of this section here versus this stuff down here, this is roughly flat with the right angle on it. This stuff is canted probably 30 degrees out. That's why our blocks keep falling. This is what I've got to dig down and fix. Look at that beauty. All the way out to the edge of the garage. I've been at this minus a half-hour lunch break for about 5 hours. And thankfully, that's the lion's share of this job. Tomorrow, or whenever I decide I want to keep going on this, I'm going to start there by the porch, work all the way up and around to the edge of the house. That's the short side. There's a few more curves. This had the really long straight run of block there. Only one little thing I've got to fix or look at is right down here by the step. There's a hole right there. I'm going to find a chunk of brick or something I can use to sort of fill that to keep material from coming out and pushing its way up through the wall. So had to turn one block sideways down here to get that in, but that I think works out very nicely. So that's going to wrap up day one and part one of the retaining wall restoration project. This turned out to be a lot more work than I was expecting. I knew I was going to have to do a little bit of hand excavation to get a nice even base set that I could put some base material and some sand down in to get these blocks nice and level. I didn't expect that that would be my second full bucket or almost full bucket of material that I've dragged out of here. So a lot of clay. Our house is built on a clay foundation for the most part. It's kind of a pain. We don't have a whole lot of topsoil. It is what it is. This is one of those projects where I was wishing there was an easy solution that involved power tools, but I don't think there is one for this. So we're just going to keep going. I've got plenty of block left, plenty of material left to finish the front, and then I'm going to try to drag it around the side a little bit. We'll see how far that goes. This may even extend to another part where I start redoing our flower beds in the back with a similar wall. But that's going to be it for another video. I'm about beat for today. I'm going to get this dumped, get this stuff put away, and that's going to be that. I am not, again, by no means am I a professional bricklayer, but this falls under the wise words of a wonderful Canadian philosopher who said, if the women can't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. So until next time, stay safe. We'll see you around.